Hello there, this is Dave Motohead out in the garage working on stuff. Anyway, I'm getting ready to do something I don't think I've made a video of, and let me put on the hat camera. I'm going to try two cameras this time, the iPad camera and the hat camera, to see if I can get a better video quality. But anyway, let me show you what I'm doing here. Okay, what we're going to be working on today is a 64 rear swing arms. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this apart and we're going to be pressing out the old, look here, it's got old bushings in there. We're going to press out the old bushings and we're going to get this thing sandblasted and powder coated, and then we're going to install these new bushings, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So let me put the hat camera on and we'll get right to it. Okay, we've got the hat cam on, and I'm going to play around a little bit here to see if this is going to work for this video. Okay, the first thing we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to cover up all these studs. This is for the lower leaf spring that goes across, and these are what holds the axle in. And now the threads on these studs are in good shape, so we don't want to screw those up. So what I've done is I've cut little pieces of rubber, and we're going to just stick them on all these little threads here, because you don't really want to replace those things. You know, once they're in there, if they're still good, you want to leave them in, because they're kind of pressed in. And so we're going to cover all these up first, so when we're playing around with this thing, we don't screw it up. You know, I don't want to get a big gash in one of these threads, especially these, because these are what holds the axles in. So, there you go, we got that. And the next thing, now that we got those covered up like that, the next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to spray some lubricant in here, and, you know, to try to get these old bushings, to try to get a little bit of lubricant in there, let it soak in a little bit while we work on it, because, you know, we want to try to make these easier to slide out. So, anyway, hold on one second, we'll go to the next step. Okay, got my hat cam adjusted right, I think. And so the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take these covers off here. So we're going to grab us a big screwdriver. And these covers that are on there like that, these are to protect, a lot of times they're missing, but to protect the bushing and everything from fluid getting in here, you know, and dirt and crap collecting in here. It's just a protective cover. So we just want to go ahead and pop those things right off here. And that's all it takes to take them off. You want to save those because we're going to clean them up and reuse them. So we'll just pop those dudes off like that. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut, since we're going to have to press this out, we're going to have to use this piece to cut that out. I want to get a nice clean grind on it, or a flat spot, so we're going to cut this old rubber off. See, like that. Look at it, it just crumbles right off. And we want to go around and cut these off like that, and with a knife, and get all this rubber out of there. We'd probably take a screwdriver on some of it and just break it off. But anyways, we're going to do that, and you can see a lot of it's just coming right off right now. So we're going to cut this rubber off like that and pick it up later with the vacuum cleaner. But you've got to be careful. You don't want to cut yourself with this knife. But most of this rubber is just so old and crumbly, it just crumbles right off. And so I'm going to do that. And the next thing we're going to want to do, now we got the rubber cut off there, little chunks everywhere. We're going to want to take some, this is a CalGuard 3030, I got it for free, it's kind of like WD-40 or whatever. And we're going to want to spray it in here a little bit, and you know, kind of soak these things a little bit, and inside here too, because we want this to come out smoothly. And so, you know, as soon as we get access to this, we want to start letting this stuff soak in a little bit while we work on it. I think that's enough in there. Yeah, because when you press things in and out, you don't really want to do them dry. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to chuck this up in the vise like this. And we're going to, it's kind of hard to do, kind of hard to do with one hand. Okay, we're going to chuck that up in the vise, and then we're going to take these bolts out. Now, these bolts have been in there for a while, so let's see. I got me a big breaker bar here, and let's see if we can pop those loose. Well, my thing isn't clamped in there. I need to move this over a little bit, get on both these pads. There we go, maybe that'll work. There we go. I'm going to clamp that in there, and we want to take these bolts out, and hopefully they won't break off, because we want to reuse those. So we're going to take these bolts off, and with these washers, now they look rusty, but out here in California they're really not rusty, they're just surface rust. And you can see that bolt inside looks pretty good. We want to pop this off there, because we're probably going to, I don't think those come in with the thing. Then we're going to want to do the same to the other side here. Take this bolt off. Because believe it or not, I'm going to clean those up and reuse them. So let's do that real quick. Probably don't need to get this on video, but what the hell, it's rolling, so I might as well do it. Alright, so we got our retaining bolts off, and if you look in there, I mean, those bolts look really good to me. They're only rusty on the outside. That'll clean up real quick with the wire brush. And then what we're going to want to do is, now those are off, we're going to want to push this around like that and get a 90-degree thing on it like that, and then loosen it up a little bit. And then what I use is a pickle fork. And what I do is I jam it on there like this, or I'm going to jam it on there like this. And then when I'm pressing it from one side, it's going to go up against that bushing right there, and it's going to go ahead and press it out like that. And that's how I'm going to get those things started, like that. So let me turn this camera off, and we'll get set up on the press here. I think I didn't forget anything, so we'll go to the press next. Okay, next thing we're going to do, we're over at the press now, we're going to try to press part of this thing out. And first thing you're going to need is you're going to need a piece of pipe here that fits around the diameter of the sleeve on the bushing there, because you want to be able to have room to push that out. So we're going to pick this thing up, and I'm going to put this on the bottom here and make sure it's centered, which this is a perfect piece of pipe for that. And then we're going to take a piece of iron pipe, a little piece that I cut off. When you're working with a press, you're always going to make different tools and stuff. A lot of times you just got to make your own tool to do what you need to do. Anyway, I'm going to slide this down in here, and we're going to line this all up. I got stuff falling all over. Whenever you press stuff, you want to make sure that you get nice and straight. So we want to make sure that this is in the right spot. Okay, that's around the collar there, and then we want to make sure that this is nice and straight and lined up. And then we're going to start putting some pressure on that. And I can usually feel it with my fingers to make sure we're straight here. So then we're going to start pressing. And you can see that it's moving that piece down right now. And it's moving it, and we don't want to go too far. Now we need something to catch this rim on the other end of this bushing here, and I think this pickle fork, if I stick it in there, will do that. So we're going to put this down tight on that pickle fork, and then we're going to press on there. I can feel it doing its thing right now, and we're going to press and see if that starts pressing that thing out. It looks like it might be, and it's starting to press that bushing out, and I can feel with the press that it's, when it gets tight, then I'll stop. Okay, right there is about as tight as we want to go, and I think we're about flush now. I can feel it. Maybe a little bit farther. Maybe just one more little bit here. Okay, I think that's about good. And then I think, if I remember right, we're going to want to back this off a little bit. And it's, like I said, it's been a long time since I did one of these early models. Take a little piece out. And I think that once you get, now you can see that pushed it out. And I think that once you get this thing about right there, you should be able to put it up here on the bench. Okay, we're back here at the bench. My camera battery went dead when I was walking over here. Good thing it beeps to tell me, or else I would have done all this without knowing my battery was dead, and I would have got on video. Anyways, we're here at the bench now, and we've got, like I said, we've got this one almost pressed out all the way. And so all we need to do now is like take a pry bar and anything to get on here and pry this out a little bit. Okay, this comes right out. And now that frees up this other side, and we should be able to just pull this thing off. Sometimes they get stuck, sometimes they don't. A little hammer action. And sometimes you have to go in there with like this little thing. I think this one's kind of rusty. You got to go in there and you got to smack it to get it out. So let's try that. There we go. And we smack that out. Okay, so now our crossbar pad is out, and there's the old shell, which we don't need there, the old inner shell. We don't need that. Then we just need to pry this thing back out of there. Okay, that's one beat up old bushing we got here, and now we'll go back over to the press and we'll press the other side out. Okay, back over at the press again. We're going to press that other one out. And we're basically going to do the same thing, but with a couple little different tools here. So I'm going to use this again to go around that bushing. I'm going to use this long pipe now because that bar's out of the way. Then I'm going to stick a piece of steel in there, like that. You want to try to line it up straight. And I can see there's a little hole in that steel. Then I'm going to start pressing on this thing. Get this lined up straight. Get all this lined up straight. Get this straight here. You can kind of just feel it. And then I'm going to start pressing on that thing and see if we can pop that bottom one out. I'm not even using the handle. I don't even know where the handle went. I'll just use this. Oh, there's the handle right there. We're going to use that piece of flat steel there to get all sides of that bushing, and we're just going to start pressing, and you can see it's just coming right out. And we're going to get it to where it gets hard, and I can feel now the press got some resistance on it. So I think, so you want to be careful with these presses because you don't want to ruin your A-arm, and you can real easy with a 20-ton press. So anyways, now that should have got that thing most of the way out. All my parts flew off there. And now if you look, you can see that bearing's flush there. And so we're going to want to take this little piece here, maybe this, and come back over here to the bench. And we want to get this other bushing out. We might be able to just get it out there with a pickle pick. But then again, maybe not. So we'll take our socket with our thing. I think I got another arbor press plate here. Actually, I'm going to want to flip this over, I think this way, so you can't see it. Setting a little doodad up here. Move that out of the way. It's always something, you know, you got a cluttered old bench. And I just want to use this for a backstop. And I want to set this up in there like that, so it's nice and solid. And then I'm going to take my extension. Yeah, you can beat your extensions up, but I think this is just going to pop right out of there. And we're just going to smack it. Ouch. Hit my hand a couple times. Look at that. Spidey man. Anyways, and so then there's our other bushing piece of crap. Now we're going to send this thing off to the powder coat guy and have him. Oops, that spider wants me. Look at him. He's coming to get me. It's a critter. I don't want to kill him because somebody might get mad. Go crawling around the trash can. Anyways, we're going to take this piece out now and we're going to send it to our sandblast powder coat guy, and then we'll come back and we'll press the new bushings in. Okay, back with you again. We got our trailing arm, or swing arm as it were, back from the powder coaters. We've got the new crossbar or pivot bar or whatever you want to call it back from the powder coater. And we got our new bushings that we're going to press in, and we're going to do that. I've already put my protective little doodads on the bolts so we don't break those. One of the things that you got to do with these is, it's in the book too, there's a special J tool for pressing these in, because when you press this in like this, you can see it's going to get started in there, but then it could collapse this and it could collapse this. Even though it looks pretty strong, sometimes when you're pressing stuff, you know, you want to make sure that you don't collapse this stuff. So what I've got here is a homemade tool that I made for doing this. And what these are for is to slip inside here as you're pressing those bushings in. You see that? And that will keep this from collapsing. And then you put this guy in there like that once the crossbar's in, and it keeps this from collapsing. And you know, you put these ones in there, the same deal on this side. Now I made this tool myself, and what I'm going to do is just take some tape here and tape them in place so they don't fall out. And one of the things you want to make sure you don't do when you put these in, you want to make sure that you keep them out of the area here that you're pressing the bushing into, because you don't want to hit this and stop your press. So anyways, let me get my gloves on, and we're going to press one of these bushings in right now and have at it here. And I think that I'm going to press, I forget which one I was going to start with. Let me figure it out. And for this first bushing, I'm just going to press it in like this, so it's so we'll have it pressed in there, and then you can put the crossbar pad in later. And here's one of the new bushings. And when you're pressing stuff in, you want to go by the collar right here. And so I've got me a piece of pipe that I've cut that barely fits over the rubber. So we're going to use that to press that in. And well, here's one of the other bushings. And also, when I get ready to press that in, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this dude and I'm going to put some tape on this. I'm going to put this in place first, and I'm only going to press in one side right now. And I'm going to get this in place like that. I'm going to do a little piece of tape on there. Kind of just keep that in place. We'll put it like this so we don't. Alright. So I'm going to put a little tape on there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant on this thing. And I like this CalGuard stuff. I don't like pressing things in dry. This stuff's kind of like WD-40, and it will dissipate after a while, so it doesn't leave it all greasy and slimy. So we're going to go ahead and stick this in there first, and we're going to look over on this side and make sure that it's lining up, which it looks like it is right there. We're going to make sure this thing's lining up on there, and we're going to go ahead and take a hammer. I'm going to just give that a couple little taps, because we want to make sure we get this thing in there straight. So we're going to start tapping it in a little bit, just to make sure that it's getting straight. Take a look at it and make sure that it's straight in there, which it looks like it is. I think it needs to go a little bit more this way. We want to kind of pre-stage this thing. And it looks like it's going in straight. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this contraption over to the press, and we're going to press this bushing in there. Now I think, well, I kind of started with the wrong one. Oh well, I'm going to put this thing up in here like this. I wanted to do the other one first so then you guys could see it. And we got our other little piece here we're going to back this up with. So we're going to back that up like that. And then we're going to stick our little dude on there like that. And we're going to get our press lined up. Like I say, you always want to get everything straight. Well, I could probably do it this way. There we go. Okay, we want to make sure that this is all straight. And we're going to start, get this tight. Slowly start doing this. We got our piece in there. Okay, it looks like we got everything lined up nice and straight now. Then we're going to start pressing that in. We're just going to slowly press that in. As you can see, it's going down in there. And there it goes. And you just want to get that thing flush in there. And you'll feel it on the handle of your press. Okay, that's pretty tight right there. And we don't want to go too tight, because if you go too tight, you'll start bending stuff. Okay, so now we've got this one in there. We'll check it while we're still sitting here and make sure that it's flush all the way around. And it looks like it is. So there's one of the bushings right there. If you can see, it looks like it's flush all the way around. And next, we need to take our, and you can see it's pressed in. So this bushing is good. Next, we're going to take our crossbar, which these things are symmetrical. It doesn't matter which side is which. But if you can see here, there's a little bit of indentations on this side. So, you know, when I go to bolt it onto the cross member, I'm going to have this side facing with the bolts. This side looks a little flatter. But once this is there like that, we should be able to stick this in like this. And then we can put our crossbar in there. And then we're going to take our next bushing. I'm going to put a little bit of lube on that one. I'll just let it drip down there. And once these things are all said and done, I'm gonna blast them with paint, even though the old ones weren't painted, you know, and things don't really rust out here. But I'm gonna give it a little blast of paint, and then we're gonna stick our new bushing in there. And we're gonna get it started like that. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna take our little dude here, and we're gonna tap it in a little bit. Make sure that it's starting straight. You know, I'd rather tap it in a little bit right here. Make sure that it's starting straight, and it's starting straight. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our other little protector deal here and stick it in there. Get it started. That looks pretty good. And then we're going to set this up in there, like so. And it'll just sit in there, it looks like. And when you do this, you want to make sure that it's not hitting the bar there. And this piece is to protect it from collapsing. And that looks good. That looks good. Now we're going to take it. We're going to have to redo our press. So let me set up the press, and then I'll get right back to you. Okay. We'll put the hat cam on here. Okay, we're back over at the press now. We've lowered this down to where we can press this thing in. And what I'm going to do on this side, and I put a little piece of tape on my protective thing to make sure it stays in the right spot so it doesn't interfere with us pressing this bushing in right here. And I'm just going to use half of this arbor plate. It's got you know, a cutout that kind of fits perfect around this dude. So we're going to get our piece of pipe we have here, and we're going to set this up on the arbor plate, and I can feel that it's nice and tight there. And I'm going to hold it flat, and I'm going to put our little pipe around the collar of this thing, and then we're going to start pumping this thing down. Make sure we got it like this. I'm going to pump this thing down, get her lined up. I get her lined up dead center here, like this. Okay, make sure she's lined up, and I'm going to start pressing. Make sure this is in place, it seems to be. And now we're going to just start pressing this thing in. You see that bushings go in just with my hands, but now it's getting tight. So I'm going to use this dude, and we're just going to keep pressing that thing in. Pressing it, and pressing it, and pressing it. And it's getting flush. It's almost to its spot. I'd say, okay, now the press is starting to get hard. A little bit. I just try to get it flush. Okay. Now I think we're good here. And let me undo the press a little bit. Okay. And this one looks to be pressed in nice and flush and tight. Get back over here to the bench. And we'll check her out. It looks like it's flush all the way around to me. This one looks flush. So now we're going to take our little protector doodad off here. I like this strapping tape. It's strapping. It gets stuck to everything. And now we're going to... Stupid tape won't come off. We're going to pull our little protector deals out of there. Like that. See, I made this tool, but I chained them together like that so I won't lose the pieces. And now we've got our crossbar in there. There's a little bit more tape. Okay, now you can see we've got our pieces pressed in. We've got our crossbar. This one's flush on this side. This one's flush on that side. And boy, this tape just went loose. And then you see I've got these are the bolts that I took off. I've got them all cleaned up on the wire wheel, and they're in good shape, and a grade 8 bolt. I want to use these same bolts to put this in. And what happens when you clamp these down, you can see this one's serrated in there from the inner piece in there. This little piece is serrated. It's got little gouges on it. When you tighten this thing up, it squishes this rubber down, and it actually pinches this inner sleeve up against the stops on both sides here, you know, because this is has a dual radius on it, and it pinches against there, and it pinches against these bolts when they're tightened up. I haven't looked at the spec on that yet, but I'll do that when I'm putting it together. And it pinches the whole thing in there, so then it makes it tight, and when it goes up and down like that, it's actually this center cylinder is pinched, and this is pressed, and it's actually twisting the rubber in there. Now you'd think, oh my God, it's going to twist it out, but it really doesn't move all that much. I mean, the end of the swing arm goes up and down like that, but these things only twist a little bit. And so when you put these bolts back in, tighten this stuff up, you want to leave them loose. You want to leave these things loose, because what you do is you put all this on the car, and you just wait until you have the power pack and everything put together on the car. Then you want to put it up on a rack, which is the easiest way to do it. You want all the weight on the car, so it centers these things. You know, when it's loose like this, it'll just move. These things will move. So you want to put all the weight on the car to where it centers it in its travel. Once the weight's on it, those things go like that, and that's where you're at. You want to do this on all these suspension bushings, and then tighten them up to spec once all the weight of the car is on it. That way it centers this bushing. if I tighten these things up right now, for one, I'm not going to be able to move this to get it lined up on the car, and for two, it's not going to be in the correct position. So when the weight goes on the car, you know, it's going to be unloaded, I guess you would say, and then when the weight goes on the car, it's going to be in the center, and that's already going to have a half a twist in that thing. Then when you hit bumps, you're twisting it more. So you want to tighten these bolts up. You want to tighten these things up once all the weight is on the car and the suspension. That way it kind of centers, you know, that center sleeve on there, and you know, then it makes the bushing last longer, because instead of it being all the way twisted, it's centered for its up and down motion like that. So let me take the hat can off, and I'll get right back with you. Okay, well, I'm done with this video pretty much. I'm back with the iPad camera or whatever to try to get a little bit better view of me, because the other camera seems to have a problem with the little, you know, pegboard behind me. But anyways, that's how you replace the bushings in a early model Corvair rear suspension swing arm, as it were. And that's really the only bushings back there for those. The front has upper and lowers, but the back just has lowers. And that's how you put those things in without screwing things up, and not as hard as you would think it is. And you can see I made my own J-tool to work in there, and you know, I'm going to do the other one, and I'm going to build me a nice new 1964 rear suspension for this wagon I'm working on. And I'm actually going to put a 65 front suspension under it, but that's for another day. Anyways, this is Dave Motohead. Hope to be making a lot more videos this year, and all I can say is thanks for watching. I hope that helped you out.